Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar, where Deacon Harold and guests explore our Catholic faith through passionate discussion. Get ready as Deacon Harold and his diverse guests bring an array of knowledge and life to Catholic teaching. You are watching Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar.
Hello, and welcome to the Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. It is great to be with you this week. As always, I always look forward to our time together. And this week, I have a very special guest. I've been featuring some folks on here that I've met around the country at conferences, my different travels. But this time, I have actually someone who's a friend and a colleague. Donna-Marie Cooper O'Boyle. Now somebody's like, wait a minute, that name sounds familiar. That's because she's written like 100 books. She's one of the most prolific writers I've ever known, a great EWTN host, speaker, lover, and devotion to Divine Mercy and the Blessed Virgin Mary. And I just want her to come on and just share a little bit about her story and the incredible work she's doing in the Lord's vineyard. So without further ado, here is my good friend, Donna-Marie Cooper O'Boyle. Welcome to the Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar.
Thank you so much, Deacon Harold. And it's so wonderful to be here. It's great to see your face. It's great to be here. And thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you are most welcome. I was really looking forward to this. Before COVID, we had planned to do a series. We both have series on EWTN over the years, and we were planning on doing something together.
Right.
And it was awesome is that people would not normally put us together. I think we have two very different styles and things, but and maybe we'll talk about that on another episode about our series about evangelization, which I believe in my heart that God will see to fruition one of these days. But to get started, for those who are watching and listening who are not familiar with you, just tell us a little bit about your background and faith journey. I mean, were you cradle Catholic or you were convert? What was your life like growing up in the faith, and how did things evolve to get to where you are now? Just an amazing and such a beautiful speaker and a prolific writer.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for all those kind words. You're too much with your compliments, but I thank you very, very much. And you'll have to stop me as I go along my journey or just interject because, there's a lot to it. There's a lot to our lives. We all have a story. We all have so many stories. And yes, I was a cradle Catholic. I was born the 7th of 8 children in a Catholic blue collar family. My father worked really, really hard and got up at 4:30 in the morning to try to provide for all of us. But I can't fail to mention that he also had his favorite bar stool at the local tavern. So, we had an interesting early life. It wasn't all peaches and cream. There was a lot of strife and a lot of, struggles. And I really think that God, allowed me to have this kind of life so that as a little girl, he kind of, formed me into this contemplative prayer, a little girl who would pray, who would go to the side of her bed and kneel down and beg our Lord for help, for the family, for whomever, and trust that he's going to deliver, or, in the car and somebody might be a little intoxicated driving maybe, and I'm in the back seat praying Our Fathers and Hail Marys and, so God, is full of blessings. He's full of mercy. And I'm very thankful for my life. I'm very thankful that my parents raised me in this big Catholic family. So many beautiful experiences, with my siblings and my parents and my mother, God bless her. She was the one who really planted those seeds of faith in my little heart as a little girl. And all of us, and my grandmother, so important. The grandparents' role is so, so important. And I write about that now too, as a grandmother of 2. So my grandmother would be praying her rosary. Mine fell on the floor. I just have to pick it up. I don't like to drop a holy object and then just not pick it up. And I'm sorry, I'm being disrespectful to your show, but so my grandmother would, pray her rosary. And it wasn't like she sat me down and said, Donna-Marie, this is how you do it. But that that witness, that beautiful witness. And I knew that she was so prayerful, and you saw that in the gleam of her eyes, and her beautiful words about Jesus and Mary. And her little apartment was plastered with, the Sacred Heart of Jesus and St. John Paul II pictures, because she was Polish, and she loved her Pope. So my mother, my grandmother, kind of led the way with the faith journey in our lives, and made sure, because my father went to bed very early. He got up real early, and he wasn't so much into the faith as my mother was. He didn't really go to church except on Christmas and Easter. And eventually, toward the end of his life, thanks be to God, he really came fully into the faith because of my mother's love and, and compassion toward him, and taking care of him in his illness at the end of his life. So it was a long journey, as everybody has through their lives. And somewhere along, it was crazy, actually. I wrote a memoir about it, The Kiss of Jesus. All these this crooked path, all these dark corners, all these crazy things that happened to me, even getting kidnapped by a crazed man with automatic weapons, and I don't mean just for like a day or a weekend, for like a year. That's a long story, but it was, crazy things happened. But what did God teach me to do as a little girl? To pray, to trust, to beg his mercy. And I could tell you a story sometime, Deacon Harold, about, the same person, putting his head in my lap and putting a pistol into my hand and trying to get me to have him come, kill him. So I was only 18 years old, and I earnestly said, Jesus, 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 with tears just coming down my face. And Jesus protected me. Jesus stopped that from happening. So I'm just interjecting little things, but profound things that happened, and just, praying along the way, trying to find my way. And, you could stop me at any time here, but,
well, I'm basically picking up my jaw off the floor right now about this kidnapping and that kind of thing. I mean, that's just, that's incredible. And I know that many of us have had issues. Parents aren't perfect. A lot of people know my story. I've had tremendous struggles with my father. And, it's really, I'm the person I am today because of my mother and other men in my life who helped mold me and shape me and show me what authentic masculinity looked like, and so, and maybe we could talk about that kidnapping story another time, because I mean, that's amazing. But so now you've 18, you've come through tremendous adversity. You overcome some challenges, and what is next for you? Did you go to college, or what was your experience like as a young adult now?
Yeah, well, college didn't unfold for me, as a seventh of 8 children, my parents not having money for us. I was never encouraged by the guidance counselors at that time or anything. Anyway, I think everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And then I found my true vocation, being a wife and a mother, and so I had, my first child, and, just relished in all of that, and that vocation of motherhood. And later on, I would end up writing so many books about that beautiful vocation and, the gifts that God gives women as a physical mother, but also as a spiritual mother. But that's another show, another time. So I became a wife and a mother. Unfortunately, that husband, after, quite some time, 10 years. Anyway, I'm trying to think of the times, the years and everything. Abandoned me on the side of the road, got out of the car, stuck out his thumb, and hitchhiked away. And I was ready to give birth to a baby in a couple of weeks by another cesarean section. My daughter was in the back seat sobbing at this whole thing. So it was really hard. So I became a single mother. I got behind the wheel in more ways than one that day. And so this was part of my journey, just raising the faith, raising the kids in the faith, even though I was by myself. I didn't really have support. My parents were gone by that point. And anyway, so, it was a struggle, but God was there. God kept me going. God kept us praying. And my life is such a long story, as we all have these long stories. But let me tell you this, it keeps going, there's more in my memoir, and we could talk about it later about just my second husband and what happened with him, and annulments. Don't worry, annulments, and married in the church. But unfortunately, these things happen with abuse. The second time was abuse. And so, but when I was on complete bed rest with a pregnancy, Deacon Harold, God put me still. I'm convinced that he put me still to save the life of my baby and myself. I had a hemorrhage in my uterus, and I had a heart condition that had worsened since the last pregnancy. And so here I was on complete bed rest with 4 other children in the household, trying to take care of them from that horizontal position. And I had to have somebody help me. And, I was married then to my second husband. And so I was on that complete bed rest, either on the couch or my bed. But what happened during that pregnancy is quite amazing. During that pregnancy was when my first books were written. Do you believe that? So I was already a writer in the way of like op-ed pieces on pro-life, and whenever I could squeak out some articles, or I would do it. But my focus was on taking care of my children. And so then, while I was on complete bed rest, I had just on little scraps of paper. I didn't have a computer. I didn't have a typewriter. And my heart was so full, all those pregnancy hormones were going all over the place. And, God was touching my heart in such a profound way. And I couldn't help but just write these things down. So it's just on pieces of paper that would go into cardboard boxes that would move with me. I had so many times I had to move. And I just kind of put it away for another time, whatever God's will was. But I was trying to write this journal for expectant mothers. And later on, it would get published. And Mother Teresa, that's another story, would end up writing the foreword to that book. And that one is called Prayerfully Waiting, a 9-month novena for mothers to be. So that happened out of that pregnancy. And it wasn't until later on I looked back and I said, wow, God is so amazing. Not only did he preserve the life of my baby, myself, and I went on to, just so many miracles in my life after that. But he also he also let books be conceived and born through that pregnancy, because I wrote those down, and then more were coming out, and I wrote some more notes on paper and just stored them away. And then until the day when a publisher asked me if I would write a book on motherhood for them, our Sunday Visitor, because they had known about my writings and everything. By that point, I was doing more articles and stuff. So it's pretty amazing to look back, a time when, you're just feeling sick. You don't know if you're going to have that baby. You don't know if that baby's going to live. You don't know what's happening to you. You have to stay on complete bed rest, but you have to trust God. And Mother Teresa at the time, and we might get into that sometime, how I met her and everything, she was praying for me. And she actually gave me this particular Blessed Miraculous medal. I keep in here because it's got so worn, the whole top part broke off, and I put it in here. And I have her relic in the back, and Saint Jacinta and different people, Padre Pio. And every time I sign a book and I give someone a blessed medal, I always touch it to my relics and I give it to them. So Mother Teresa prayed, and for that pregnancy too, and amazing things that God did. And that's where the book writing started.
Okay, let's back up for a second. I'm just sitting here going, what the heck, man? Wow, just wow. What an amazing story. Now, you mentioned several times Mother Teresa. I mean, we've got to talk about how you met Mother. I mean, how many people can say they spent time with a saint? I mean, Mother Teresa, and actually, she's one of the, as far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest saints of the 20th century.
Yes.
And a lot of people, even when I talk to school kids, they know who Mother Teresa is. So that's a contemporary saint that we can all identify with. And because obviously with television and stuff, she's seen all over the world. How did you come to meet Mother Teresa? What was your work like with her, and what was your relationship like with Mother Teresa, with the saint?
Right. Well, how much time do we have? Because I'm afraid I might go too long. Stop me anytime. Give me the hook. Mother Teresa, I met Mother Teresa through Father John Hardin, my spiritual director, whom I consider to be a living saint. He was also holy. And by God's divine providence, I don't know how, I mean, I do know how God wanted these saints into in my life, and to help me, to mold me, and to help give me that wisdom and love and everything I learned from them to pass on to others. Now, I didn't know at the time that God was going to give me the, I don't like to say, but platform of, to have that platform to speak around the world, to write all these books, to have the TV series on EWTN, to reach hearts, and to share those beautiful words I learned from my spiritual mother, my mentor, Mother Teresa. And, so at the time with Father Hardin, Mother Teresa, and I weave all their wisdom into my work. I had no idea. I was in survival mode most of that time. And, I told you some of the things that went on. There's a lot more. There really is. But God gave me this beautiful life, to pray and help others to pray. So Father Hardin, he wanted our family to go to Washington, D.C., where he was stationed at the time, so that we could have a face-to-face with him, and some meetings we had to do. I put that in my memoir. And anyway, so from there, he said, the Missionaries of Charity have this gift of peace home for the dying in DC, you should visit them. And, it's a good thing he said that, because we wouldn't have thought to do that. And we went there. I'll try to make this brief because there's just so much to the story, but, and we saw the sisters, they radiate joy. These sisters, they're smiling, they're joyful. They have so much love of Jesus in their heart, and they serve Jesus and the other, because Mother Teresa firmly believed that, what Jesus instructed, whatever you do to the least of my brothers, you do to me. And that's how she treated each person. So we saw the people who were dying, the people who were sick. The sisters showed us around, and it was a beautiful experience. And then one of the sisters said to us, we'd like you to come back tomorrow to our private mass. We have a 7 o'clock and 11 o'clock. And it was kind of like she said, by the way, Mother Teresa will be at one of them, but we don't know which one, kind of like, by the way. And so we were happy to be invited. We were also, hopeful that possibly we could meet this saint that, I admired so much and loved, and, taught the world that, starving is not just for a piece of bread. Starvation in the Western world is for love, so much that she could teach us. And I thought, wow, that would be wonderful. But whatever God wants, just to go back would be great. So we went back the following day. We got the kids up real early at the, in the hotel that we're staying at. Had to, that was kind of hard. They're hugging their pillows and they're tired. But we said, let's go. We're going to mass. And we went over there, and we see all the sandals, Deacon Harold, lined up outside the door of the chapel. So we thought, okay, we're supposed to take our shoes off. So we go into this chapel. Now you're going to have to, give me the hook, because I'll try to be very brief, because I can give hour-long talks on just the experience in the chapel. Because, all right, you go in there, it's completely stark, and you see just an altar, a tabernacle, and the words, I thirst, right near the tabernacle, and a statue of the Blessed Mother. So very simple. They lived exactly like the poor. Mother Teresa didn't want to be attached to things. She wanted to, no heat, not much heat, not much air conditioning. I don't think there was any air conditioning in that hot summer day. So those words, I thirst, really drew to, my heart. But that's another story too, because there's so much in those profound words that Jesus uttered from the cross. He thirsted for the salvation of souls, and that's what Mother Teresa did. She strove to satiate his thirst on the cross in all of the people that she served. So I'll try to be to the point. We knelt down, in the sea of white saris, all these nuns in their white saris kneeling down. And I had my 3 children. The youngest was under 2. You know what an under 2-year-old is, kind of busy, a little rambunctious, maybe needs to move around, but we're in this little room. So before we get to the mass, I'm settling my kids and trying to, have a prayerful state of mind and heart, get ready for mass. And I felt a presence come by the left side of me. I just felt this presence, and out of the corner of my eye, I looked over, and there she was, the hero of the poorest of the poor. This little, if I stood up right now and showed you, she was like this tall. She was so small with a hump on her back, and I attribute that to all her stooping down on the low mats to take care of all the dying. But here she comes in her bare feet, walking by, with her hands clasped in prayer, and she just blends in with the sisters. And I said to myself, wow, we made it to the right mass. And then I said, don't be worried about that. Get your mind on what you're here for, Holy Mass. So we had a beautiful mass. I had to tiptoe in and out 5 or 6 times with Jessica on my arms. I didn't want to disturb the mass or the sisters. Afterward, when we were leaving the chapel, my daughter Chaldea, who is now a wife and mother of my 2 grandchildren, she was just 6 years old at the time. And when she was, we all genuflected, but, I guess Chaldea, she knelt down and blessed herself and gave a little kiss to Jesus. And a nun came over and behind her just grabbed her like, oh. And I thought, these nuns, they're just so beautiful. And then I'm looking like, it's not just any nun, it's Mother Teresa. And so as quickly as she came into the picture, she went into a different room. And we went into the foyer to talk to the sisters about, everything, just whatever they want. There were some sisters there and 2 co-workers. So we were there. I was holding Jessica so she wouldn't run around the convent. And the door opens and here comes Mother Teresa right toward me. And she puts her hand out and to touch Jessica. And she said, is this the little baby who was singing at Mass? And that broke the ice right away. And she gave us each blessed miraculous medals. This is from the pregnancy, but she gave us other ones at that time. And we had a beautiful conversation. She started off with, your children are so lucky and blessed to have a family, because she was so used to, the poverty that she saw and children and, babies that needed to be rescued. And so I said, I am so blessed to have them. And so it was all about the family. We had this beautiful conversation for a long time. And finally, we felt like, gosh, we better let her get to her real work. So we hugged her goodbye. And she said, please pray for me. I'll pray for you. Now, I'm getting to the end of this part of the story. Don't worry. What happened then was all the way back to Connecticut, a long ride. I wrote a few meditations down, reflections and then I just was thinking about the whole thing and praying. And it just kept prodding me, this thought, write to her and thank her for the medals and thank her for that time, that beautiful time. And I said, no, I'm not going to take up more of time from this saint who's busy about many important matters. And so I tried to let go of that thought, just went about my business, taking care of the family. It just kept prodding me. So finally I picked up the phone. I called Mother Dolores there at the convent. And I said, I really want to write to Mother Teresa to say thank you, but I don't want to write to her because, I just don't want to bother her. And she said, Donna, you are to write to her and here is her address. She told me over the phone. And even though it sounded so prophetic and so direct, I said, are you sure? Are you sure I should do it? And she said, yes. And here is the address. So I sent a letter off to Mother Teresa. Within about 3 weeks or so, I received a letter back from Calcutta because she had gone back to Calcutta. And I couldn't believe it. And that would be the first, Deacon Harold, of 22, actually 23 letters. I miscounted before. I just realized another one that she gave me. Over the years, over the almost next 10 years, we would meet on 12 more occasions. We would have this communication with the letters and even a phone call between Calcutta and the States when I was going through a terrible, terrible divorce. And she was praying for me. And so that was pretty remarkable, that meeting her and then what unfolded over those years. So there's so much more to the story, but that gives you an idea of how that happened. And then, I was in survival mode a lot of things happened. Oh, and then I had to go through this horrible, horrible court trial where my kids were going to be ripped away from me by an attorney husband at the time, my second husband. And so, I never wanted to talk about these things in public before, and I never wanted to write a memoir about it, but I had a couple publishers asking, and I didn't really want to. Plus, I had to be careful. I changed names of people, and so but the more and more I prayed, I really felt God telling me that you have to share of your struggles in order to help other people. And because I never wanted to draw attention to myself. So with the work that I do, the ministry, the books, the speaking, the TV, whatever it is, radio, I always want to give glory to God. It's not about me, but God showed me that, no, it's not about you, but I made you, I love you, and you've lived, you need to share of your sufferings because there are other people suffering. And by you sharing, they'll see you got through it. They can get through it too. Now, it's not like he said those words, echoing in the sky. I'm just telling you through my experiences and through prayer and through God's examples. This one woman in particular, who was driving me from San Antonio to Corpus Christi, Texas one time, as I gave a conference there and I had to do another one. And she wanted time with me, so she offered to drive me. And during that time, she told me that she was very worn out because she was a single mother of one son, and it was a lot. And that was the first time I revealed, I think, to anybody. Well, some people knew, I was a single mother too, but I mean, she didn't know. And so I told her I would definitely pray for her and God would see her through. And I said, I was a single mother of 5 children and I understand. And she said, you? She almost drove off the road because people think, oh, you're on EWTN, you look like you're doing okay. You probably had a pampered life, that kind of thing. People don't know. And so not that you want to say, woe is me, but it's good to share that, yes, God gave me that experience. I was a single mother for Deacon Harold. I even had to get these little takeout meals from the local soup kitchen one time, for my little children, because I had nothing. And God saw us through, so God is good, and he allows us to have different challenges and sufferings in our lives. We all do, no matter what state of life we have. And, we need to trust God and to pray and to do our very best to get help, to talk to people, and don't do it alone. But, God will get us through. God will get us through.
Wow. Wow.
I still didn't
This is amazing. This is just I'm sitting here like, wow, man. I mean, what I love about you sharing your story, there's 2 things. First of all, the beautiful gift of vulnerability that you have. When you look at Jesus on the cross, the people that were looking at him, here's a man who's defeated, here's a man who's weak, here's a man who's broken. But as St. Paul reminds us, it's from that vulnerability that he received his strength. His power is made perfect in weakness. And you're exactly right. By sharing the gift, by sharing your vulnerability, sharing your story, it really helps to strengthen others, because you become now a vehicle of mercy, divine mercy to someone else. That and also I think just people understanding that the struggles of single motherhood, and trying to balance everything, and it's just really an incredibly beautiful story.
Thank you very much. And I have, a whole chapter. I weave that into my books too, to help single mothers and all mothers and all women. And we might talk about this another time, but I'm just gonna, not to plug the book, but just because it's on my mind. In my newest book, Divine Mercy in a Woman's Life, Milestones Along the Way. Yesterday was the release day, the official, and you endorsed that book. Well, anyway, there's a whole chapter, as you probably remember, for the single mothers. So it's for all the different milestones in a woman's life, and there are so many amazing stories from interviews that I've done for that book that are woven through.
Well, let's talk, just as we begin to wrap up here, let's talk a little bit about, well, first of all, you talked about being an author. How many books do you have? I mean, because you probably have as many books as I have behind me here.
That's funny. Yeah, I should have done this in my office, and then you'd see the books. But so I have to be honest, I don't even know. It's over 30. I'm pretty sure it's 35, and I think this new one might be 36. Some are translated into foreign languages. One is in Braille, and I'm just very honored and blessed that our Lord would use his little lowly servant who didn't have college education, who never was taught to write, and, who scratches her, uh, message across paper or puts fingers to the keyboard. God is good. And we all have a mission. We all have our gifts that God gives us to give him the glory, to help others get to heaven, not to just get there by the skin of our teeth, but by our lives of love. We are to draw so many people with us to heaven. So yeah, so I never planned, Deacon Harold, I never planned to be an author. I mean, I loved writing, I loved art, I loved to do creative things, and I like to express myself. Even though I was very, very shy when I was little, it was hard to express myself, but see, God pushed me forth. He said, okay. I remember one time when I was talking to this priest, and my first book was coming out in 2005, and he heard about that and he said, oh, can you speak to our parish? And I thought, what? Speak? What do you mean? Don't you want to just see the book? I didn't know. That was a whole new revelation to me. Like, what? But when he asked me that, honestly, I really did feel God saying to me, this is what you're going to be doing, not just here at this parish. And I thought, oh, okay, if that's what you want me to do, just tell me what to say. And then, everything just unfolded. So I didn't choose to go out there and put myself out there. I didn't choose the TV, all that stuff. Of course, I love to do it to help others, but it's not something I'm drawn to. Really, I'm not drawn to put myself. People might think, oh, I do, but no, I'd rather just be sitting there or talking to the people or meeting them and loving them and hugging them. Complete strangers. I have all these opportunities that God gives us to help other people, but he also wants us to talk about it. He also wants us to write about it and to speak, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And your books aren't thin either. I mean, they're pretty. I mean, I've had the honor and privilege of reading a number of your books and endorsing them. Look at that. That's the latest book that you have. I mean, a lot of your books are that thick. I mean, you have a
Yep.
lot to say and a lot
Oh,
to share and a lot of wisdom that God has given you. And what
thank
I love is that, just like me, I didn't ask to leave my
you.
career in law enforcement to do this. I would never, if someone had told me 10 years ago, guess what? You're going to leave your job and talk about Jesus and write books and travel all over the world. I would have laughed in your face,
I know.
But here we are, Donna, right? Donna-Marie,
Yeah.
here we are, just instruments, and I always say that we're just instruments. God's a musician, you know,
Yes, yes.
and what we have to be is finely tuned instruments in
Mhm.
God's hands so that
Yeah.
God can use us for his glory, right? Like you so beautifully alluded to Psalm 115, not to us, Lord, not to us, but to your name give the
Mm.
glory.
Amen.
You know,
Amen.
that's the key. So
Yeah.
man, this was just this was
Oh,
just an amazing conversation.
I love it.
I will definitely have you back. I'd love to talk more about your experience with Mother Teresa. I want to talk more about your books
Thank you.
because the beautiful thing is you write on so many different topics. So maybe we can have an episode featuring each one of your books. So we're gonna have you back on a lot. I think
Thank you.
people be really edified and uplifted and inspired to a
Yeah.
deeper love of Jesus Christ through you and through your story and through your writings. So in the meantime, Don, how could people, what's the easiest way for people to find out more about you, your books and the work you're doing
Mhm.
in the Lord's vineyard?
Well, thank you for asking. They can go to my website, www.donnacooperoboyle.com, no apostrophes or anything. And if you put in Donna-Marie Cooper Boyle, someday we'll have to talk about why I have such a long name, but you know what? You do too. Right? People kind of joke about my long name, but there's a reason for it. Okay. My mother named me Donna-Marie and she put a hyphen in there. So people wouldn't break it down, but you can call me Donna. It's okay. But www.donnacooperoboyle.com or Donna-Marie Cooper O'Boyle. I've got a few websites, but that's my main one. And you can see blog posts, you can order books, you can see what's going on over there. And hopefully you'll visit. And also follow me on Instagram. I like to post there pretty much daily and little messages and pictures and stuff like that. So social media is a good way to see what I'm doing. But my website surely is a place that I hope you visit.
All right, wonderful. And of course, I'm going to have links at the bottom of the video here so people can visit your website, hopefully frequently. Well, Donna-Marie, it's been an absolute joy having you on the show. And I'm telling you, this could be the first of many episodes we're going to do, because there's just so much. It's so inspirational, and all the things that you're doing is just awesome. And there's no doubt or question in my mind that the work that you're doing can really inspire people. And again, to do what? To move to deeper intimacy with the Lord, to recognize that, wait a minute, I have challenges in my life. And then Donna-Marie's story is going to help me and inspire me to work toward overcoming those challenges by what? Trusting in the Lord, trusting in his love, trusting in his divine mercy. So thank you so much, Donna-Marie. It's been great having.
Thank you. I have to say one quick thing is that I'll never forget when we first met in person at the CMN. You know, we both had a book coming out with Ignatius Press at the time. And we had this great little candid conversation. And I just said to you right then and there, I said, we ought to do something together. I just felt like we need to do something together. And then we were planning on, we're going to do our series, Lord willing. And now we are together. So thank you for having me on. And this was great. I love this conversation, and I hope and pray that it will bless others. And I'm sure you doing this is definitely going to bless others. And we give all glory to God.
Well, thank you so much, Donna-Marie. It's been great having you. And like I said, we'll definitely have you on again. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for the Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar. I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. And until next week, my friends, may God bless you richly and abundantly.
Thank you for watching Deacon Harold's Walk by Faith Wednesday webinar. Tune in next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for more.